Galimera, galispera, galinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It is a new week. It's a blank canvas. Football, proper football, is almost upon us again. It's time to tell stories and paint pictures. Let's rock and roll with some epic men in the house with me tonight.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to the show. For those who have taken the week off from football and are chilling on a beach somewhere or having a staycation, thanks very much for listening on audio and on replay as well. And for those of you who've taken the time off, I hope that you have enjoyed it. Either way, we're going to have some fun tonight. And thanks for everyone who's in the house. And here's the big reveal. Tonight's guest, can I just say, I'm very, very happy to have these two fellas in the house with me. It's Trev and Fergus from Guns and Yellow Ribbons. And returning is the former Arsenal midfield maestro, Mr. David Hillier. Welcome, boys. Oh, we lost. What happened to Trev? What happened to Fergus? Where the bloody hell'd you go?
There he is. There he is.
Oh, he's such a troublemaker, this one already.
Started already, Sophie. Started already. Keep on him.
Oh, did Trev not warn you before we came on air to behave? Did he not?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he did. Okay, let's do a little welcoming. Good evening, squaddies. I always lose my manners when Super Kev isn't here. At ease. We've got the whole fam jam in the house. We've got Demsek, we've got PW, Yanto's here, QA Guna is here, Trev is here, Carol's here, Tammy's here, Ian's here, Lone Star Londoner from Texas is here. I just love doing that. Arnie's here. The whole fam jam's here. Thank you, everyone. And we really appreciate you making us part of your day. David Hillier, did you have a good weekend? A good trip to South Africa? Yeah? Did we talk about that already?
Good trip away. And then a week back at work, back into the grind. But yeah, it's been a good week and had a nice weekend. And then back to it today. So yeah, it's just back to normal until the next holiday. So until the next one.
Yeah, it's not too far off as well. Knowing you, it's not too far off. Speaking of holidays, Trev, how are you? You had a lovely break this weekend, though.
Yeah, indeed, I am very well, thank you, Sophie. I've had a lovely weekend in Madrid with a beautiful wife. The weather was very good. We've ate lots of food, drunk lots of beer, and seen loads of what is really a lovely city. And that'll be I like to call it work, but my wife calls it holiday. So my next holiday will be the Bayern Munich away game, and I can't wait.
Love it. Hopefully Madrid will be in your future again soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Fergus. Fergus. What'd you get up to yesterday,
Over the weekend, not a lot. I just relaxed, chilled. Don't really remember much of it. I was so relaxed. You know what I mean, Sophie? I spoke to you after 10 very relaxing moments.
I get a phone call yesterday. I'm going to have to tell the squaddies. Sorry, this is what we do on this show. Dave and Trev, someone was, I don't know, maybe 10 pints in. At least 8 of them were Guinness. And I get a phone call. It was absolutely glorious. I don't know if there's anything better in life than getting a phone call from a drunk Irishman. I really don't. Someone tell me. Prove me otherwise.
Yeah, not getting a call from a drunk Irishman isn't bad, to be honest with you.
From Jimmy Carter. He was my my drunk call buddy.
He used to call you, Dave?
Yeah, he used to call me up when he was out anywhere in London or anything. First, when I moved to Bristol, and I'd get a phone call 4:00 Saturday morning, be Jimmy. Love you, Hills. Love you, Hills.
Yeah. Oh, he's a good lad, Jimmy. Good looking lad. Back in those days, eh?
Very pretty back then.
Yeah, pretty boy. Okay, speaking of pretty boys, they played pretty football. Some say no. I say yes. I think the football that George Graham's Arsenal played was very pretty. And I think the whole 1-0 boring tag is absolute bollocks, if you ask me. We're going to do this tonight. Here's the agenda, you guys. All right. We're going to talk a little bit of nostalgia. All right. And there's going to be some stuff that you maybe don't know yet and we'll learn about. Trev and Fergus have got some really great questions for Dave. And I just thought this time he's here, we'll take total advantage. So a lot of our younger listeners love listening to the history. They love learning stories. And I think there's not been anything as close for me to this particular Arsenal team since George Graham. And that's no disrespect to Arsene Wenger or the Invincibles. I'm talking about managerial style, mentality, a whole bunch of stuff which will come to fruition during the show. And then at the very end of the show, I have a huge announcement to make. So you're going to want to hang loose, hang tight, get your tea, get your beer.
It's not Trevor's tattoo. It's not a new tattoo by Trevor. Trevor, you haven't got another tattoo, have you?
No, something much, much more important than that. I reckon it must be.
Brilliant stuff. Right. So let's start at the very top. Fergus, do you want to? Who wants to start? Fergus or Trev? I'll let you guys duke it out.
Well, David, I wasn't lucky enough to see you play live, but I was lucky enough to see some of George Graham's football, and I know how much his reputation precedes him about his no-nonsense attitude and everything else. It was more really interesting to know what you thought. What was it like to play under somebody as much of a disciplinarian as George Graham was? I met him once at the unveiling of the new wraps, and I asked him for a picture, and the look of pleasure of me asking for a selfie with him. Yeah, I still got fear running through me now. So what was it like for you as a footballer?
I'm sure that was just the front. I'm sure he definitely wanted his picture done with you.
Absolutely.
But I think back in the day, obviously, everything was different, especially for kids. I think the discipline and all of that. And, we played out a lot, looked after ourselves, and we needed sort of that father figure to, take control of us. And what he did was what was very clever with George. And I think with Arsenal back then, even when you go back maybe 10 years before that in the Terry Neal days and stuff like that, is that they treated the 14-year-olds the same way as the 16-year-olds, the same way as the 18-year-olds, the same way as the men that turned out on the Saturday to play for the first team. Everybody was treated with the same sort of discipline, so that we kind of knew who we was playing for. And we all know, it's been well said that it's remember who you are, what you are, and who you represent. That is the key to Arsenal, and that was fed to us from the day. My first training session with the schoolboys or the under 13s, whatever it was, that was said to me, and that stayed with you. And then the consistency through the coaches. Most of the coaches were Arsenal people. When I joined Pat Rice youth team, obviously George, the manager, we had prior to that, I signed schoolboys for Terry Neal. I signed my apprenticeship for Don Howe, who was standing in when Terry Neal was relieved, and then signed for George. So I had that Arsenal tradition. Everyone I signed for was a Arsenal stalwart. But George's discipline, he gave and he took away. He was like a parent. He'd slap you on your wrists and tell you when you've done something wrong, but he'd pat you on the back and put his arm around you and, when you've done something right. And he had a formula that worked with those sort of people, and he got people in who responded to that. But it was the consistency from 14 all the way up to when you signed your first pro contract. You felt like you had an opportunity at Arsenal, but you belonged to a very important family, if you like.
Trev, do you have a follow up? Do you have a follow up on that? Because the George Graham conversation to me is fascinating. But before you do, I want to play something for everyone. Okay, not everyone has seen this, and a lot of fans, maybe our generation, have. But this is what I was saying at the top of the show in terms of where have you heard this before, especially to you generation, to you millennials and your Gen Zs and your alphas. Listen very carefully. And Dave can help us break this down. And Fergus, I'll swing it back to you after the video. But listen to this and let me know if you've heard this before.
Number two, it's the first opportunity I've had to talk to everybody after the tribunal decision. And the media are enjoying it. The majority of the media are enjoying it. They're enjoying us getting all this stick, because normally nothing comes out of Highbury, right? And they're enjoying it. Again, lads, there's one way to handle it. Just keep winning matches. They're looking at us, and the stick we've been getting the last couple of weeks, right? It seems fashionable just now to jump in the bandwagon and get into Arsenal. It's fashionable. We're not second bottom, we're second top. And that's what they're second. We're second top of the league. And it's the best Battlefield for over 40 years. So keep thinking football all the time. Okay? Think of football. You should all be proud of yourself, and make sure we'll work hard individually and collectively. Right? We're all professional people. You've all got responsibilities to yourself and your families, and keep that in your mind at all times, right? The lads, if we stay together as a unit within the club, and even now, I'm trying to sort of get the crowd right with us. And we've got to get the fans on our side a lot more, like they do up north, especially at home. Right? We've got to get them, included in it, because I'm getting loads and hundreds of letters telling us, right, about how unfair it is that the media are jumping on top of the bandwagon. Why are we getting bad press? We've got to get the fans on our side. You go up north, it's almost like a gold star. You go to places up there, and then we've got to do the same with our fans. And I'll put them up. Don't worry about that. But lads, we've got to watch our behaviour. I'm telling you right now. And that means we've still got to tackle, still got to close down, we've still got to challenge. It was one of.
Wow.
It's one of the greatest videos of all time.
Yeah.
To be honest, it does sound very much like our Spanish manager right now. And David, just listening to you talking about all the great players that are managers that you played under as you grew into your career. But it is very key that they were Arsenal through and through beforehand. They knew the culture of the club. And I think, do you find with Arteta today that is a huge benefit to him in comparison to, say, Wenger? Wenger didn't have that culture.
Yeah, I think you're probably right that he's been through all of the emotions that an Arsenal player feels, but then he was brought up maybe not with what we was, but he's gained the feeling. So I think it's important for the way he plays and his demands on the players that he's got that background, definitely. But he was more of a Wenger player, wasn't he? So
yes.
So you would say, you could argue he wasn't brought up in that regime. I think naturally that's what he would do as a manager. He wants to control the youth all the way through, the same discipline, the same standards, and he wants to give that back to the players. He protects the players like George Graham used to protect us, but he also knows we have to play without fear. Same as George in that historic statement he made. But sorry to burst any balloons, but that was like a team talk before any big game. Everybody's after you, everybody hates you, everybody wants to beat you. I know, he's got full confidence, full backing in us to do the right thing, because we worked hard. It was a simple game, but we worked hard, we played to our strengths, and we all done our 10%, as he used to say, in the team. And when everybody does that's 100%. And we had that every game. Tuesday night at the Tuesday club, we give 100%. Everybody was committed to the cause. Definitely, even players that were a little bit unsettled, they still turned up on a Saturday. Very few players didn't turn up, and when they did, they was told, but not in no bad way.
Just one final one. You mentioned the Tuesday Club just briefly. Was the Tuesday Club just the Bank of Friendship, or did you wander across to the Woodbine and gone to the Gunners, or was it just the Bank of Friendship?
No, well, the real Tuesday Club didn't start until we got early hours of the morning, when we used to go to a place called Dover Street.
Okay.
Piccadilly. That's where it really, it kind of kicked onto. So that's what, because it was more exclusive. More exclusive just for the players. The two guys that run the bar used to just let the players in, and a few there was a few other celebrities. There's some bloke, George Best, used to go in there, sit up the bar with a jacket with "Legend" on the back of it.
And he was.
Yeah, I
That
remember.
place is still open. The Dover Street Wine Bar. Now they call it the Dover Street Wine Bar. My friend has a band. They play sax there. But yeah, great place.
A really cool little place, and I mean that's where it's sort of our sort of hold on the Tuesday Club is in there. But yeah, it used to. I'm sure it went all over, and then it probably continued back in Barnet on the way back when after lads were going back to their houses and they were stopping off at 5 o'clock somewhere for a late one. But yeah, we stuck together back in the day. But on the pitch, yeah, very similar as today's team. I don't think today's team are as technical as the Invincible side. You know, the football is not the same. It can be at times, but the Invincibles were beautiful to watch all the time. Some unbelievable players. But I think what this team has got is definitely that spirit, that Arsenal spirit. And we're going to need it because, as what you said earlier, lots of games coming up. So we're going to need it. Going to need to draw on that.
You see, it's interesting, right? Because I draw my comparisons with George Graham and Mikel Arteta in that George Graham won us a league title in '89. We'd won some cups, but we hadn't won a league title since '71. We waited a long time, '89, and then obviously there's the Wenger era, but then we last won it in 2004. So it's been like that time period again. And Mikel sort of give us a hope we haven't had for many, many, many years, David. It's a lovely time to be an Arsenal fan. But the point I want to make is, you can tell from that film there, George Graham used the hassle from the press and what they used to say, I think, to turn it round and use it to drive you on. And I think that Mikel Arteta does the same now. And do you think he helped with what he said? Did he move the pressure off your shoulders and make you feel, yeah, I've just got to go out there and play and worry about nothing else?
Well, like I said, he did it on a regular basis. That was just, you know, that was, we knew the TV cameras were there. So it's obviously not propaganda, if you like, because it was true.
Yeah.
Dealt that out whenever he felt we was under the cosh, or whenever we got in trouble, or whenever something had happened that, you know, maybe the lads on a pre-season trip, something had happened and got in the press. He dealt with it the same way every time. They're going to try and kick you. They're going to try and do you as much as they can. He'd tip you off if something was going to be in the paper on a Sunday.
Why do you think it is fashionable, David? Why is it fashionable? Because it's been happening ever since I can remember. The press, is it because I'm an Arsenal fan? It seems worse, but they just don't seem keen on the Arsenal, do they? They'd rather find a dig at us than give us praise.
I think that's just what people have got used to. I don't know if it's, you know, I don't think the players feel that they get picked on. I certainly didn't, like, sure. Our team didn't when we was back in the day. We didn't feel like we got picked on because we also, by the way we played, wanted to be kind of not bullies, but we played aggressively. We wanted to dominate. So we knew that came with the territory. People were going to not be happy with you, think you're not playing great football, rather go and watch that lot down the road who play lovely football and never win nothing. You know, back in the day, West Ham played lovely football, and some people would say, "Oh, you don't even play football as good as that." No, we play football to win football, and then you had to dominate people. So you picked up enemies, if you like. And I just think that's just carried on from back then. I don't know what it was like in the 50s, 60s, whether they got stick, but certainly I think from probably the 71 side, that double, we had a few like decent players in that side. They went on to, you know, be not playboys, but, you know, quite iconic footballers. And I think they kind of got a reputation, and shit sticks, doesn't it? That's the trouble.
Yeah. See, they were my first heroes, the 71 side. I went to my first game in December 1970. What a start to being an Arsenal fan. And I don't know if I'm jumping ahead now, Sophie, but you've not mentioned it, David, and you were a very important part of this. We mentioned 89, we mentioned the Invincibles, but my God, man, that team, that 91 title winning side, they would take anybody on, in my view. Absolutely superb football team to watch, and very nearly the first Invincibles, mate, weren't they?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that loss at Chelsea.
Yeah, gutted.
we didn't. You know what? As players, people say, "Oh, what was it like?" And we didn't.
Sorry.
We weren't thinking about being invincibles. Yeah, and it was just another game. Win another game. Do what you need to do to get the result. Don't concede, and you can't lose. That was what George always used to say to us.
Yeah.
Don't concede. You can't lose, and because he knew we'd always create something.
Was that mentioned in the dress? Was that mentioned in the dressing room? The chance that you could go unbeaten all season. Did anybody believe that could happen?
I don't really remember that. I don't remember in '89. I wasn't around as much around the first team, but certainly in that season when we won the league, I don't think anyone was really talking about it till the last few weeks. You know, when it was coming to an end, and certainly I don't really remember the fact that we was nearly unbeaten. I don't think that was a consideration. We was just beat everyone who comes in front of us mode, and that was what George made us into. Our conditioning was so repetitive. You know, Monday would be the same, Tuesday. You hardly had any difference in the training schedule. He kept all the drills the same, and we was literally just machines out there, and we'd go out there, do our jobs, and like I say, we had the flair players. We had some fantastic flair players who could change the game for us. So it was the back four and the two central midfield were one unit, and everybody else was the attacking unit, and that's how we preyed on teams.
Talking about, sorry, Sophie, we talked 89 and a bit about the Invincibles in 91. What about Wrexham 92? How did that feel?
I think again,
That's a bad question,
isn't it? I'm even worse. I've got the picture. There he is, number 4 in the wall, holding his nuts.
It was going right over my head. But yeah, I think it was just one of them days. I don't think no one was really, after the game, we was obviously gutted and disappointed, but we didn't feel like we'd been beat by a team all the divisions below us. We just felt that on the night we weren't good enough, and we did get done by a tasty free kick, to be fair, by a player that I see quite often now on like golf days and little corporate things.
Does he remind you?
No, because I always ask him if he's got 50 quid first.
I've just got to say something here, right? David, I might have to apologise for some of Fergus's questions because I've been away for the weekend, so Fergus has drawn these questions up, right? So if there's a silly one in there somewhere, it's absolutely nothing to do with me.
That's one hell of a disclaimer there.
look at you throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, pal.
He does it to me often enough. I don't know where are we heading here, Sophie? I mean,
I'm going to play something fun. Okay, so Wrexham may have been like a Newman, who will find out this evening if his yellow card from last week has been rescinded. Doubtful, but anyway, we'll find out. Because Dave, you did like a good celebration too, and as Asfar said, you were a silky smooth passer of the ball. And, who cares if we get gypped tonight? We're no ads on tonight. Feel free to swear. But there's a couple of videos I found earlier this morning. And, I mean, they're very quick, but I'm going to play them anyway. This was the FA Cup. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I think in 93. And this went to a replay, but let's have a look.
Winterburn. Parlour. Still Parlour. Oh, good shot. Ray Parlour. The exuberance of youth. And maybe that's given Arsenal the way back.
I love seeing that. And then one more from that game.
It's given Arsenal the way back. Crowd of just over 26,500, just becoming a little bit subdued. As Arsenal fail to get the breakthrough. Maybe now, Parlour. Merson on his right foot, well struck, fabulous strike by Merson, and bang on cue. It's a different game now, 2-2, and what a wonderful strike by Paul Merson.
I did.
Love the cuddle, the spoon.
Yeah, spoon. I love the spoon. I've got a few of them. Me and Kev, me and Righty. Yeah, me and Merce there. Yeah,
He scored some bangers, Merson. He really did.
Merce was the original Magic Man. Listen, he's got a right foot and I will say it out here now, like Brady's left foot. His right foot was an absolute wand. If you saw him, what he could do, if the ball was on his left-hand side, he could pull it over. He was a really good footballer as well. Really good footballer, Merce. Yeah, he was. He'd be certainly one of my top midfielders that I played with in my career. But obviously, DB10, I don't think you can get any better than that.
I mean, Fergus, back to you, but I agree. Lee Judges in the house. Welcome, Mr. Judges. How are you? What a player Paul Merson. He was. So I think underrated, actually, Fergus.
Yeah, a great player, great player. I loved his book. I read the book. I don't read many books because I'm a bit dyslexic and stuff like that. But I read How Not to Be a Professional Footballer, and I absolutely loved the book. It had like a Stella Can front on it and everything. It was a brilliant player. David, you're instrumental in that '93 semi-final, but you got injured and you couldn't make the cup final. I'm going to get a yellow card by the end of this, aren't I? Because that's 2 negative questions.
Trev's going to kill you, yeah.
I'm speechless.
So
how does that feel to go all that way to the semi-finals and then not be able to play?
How do you think it felt, Fergus? The blokes dancing on the ceiling, I bet, weren't you, David? I bet you were over the moon, weren't you? My good God, man.
I'm dancing on the definitely, because I think I had my leg in a cast. But yeah, obviously, tremendous disappointment, because it was a really big season for me. And I just thought, having all them, I think I played in almost every cup game up those finals. And yeah, to miss out on the finals was hard, but it did mean that I was allowed to enjoy
the club. How did the club make you feel as part of that? Because you're not able to be there because your legs in the cast and everything else. But do they include you because you're such an integral part of the team with that in the cup runs?
Yeah. I mean, no, my leg. I was only in the cast initially for 10 days after the injury, so I wasn't when I went to celebrate at Wembley. But yeah, they certainly. I was involved in everything. The day-to-day running. When you go to London Colney now, they've got all different departments. They've got the medical department, the physio, the recovery department. Everything's separate. But at London Colney originally, the medical room was 3 beds in a room that had big, massive glass windows that used to be left open so that the fit players would lean in and give the lads on the benches a bit of stick, or you'd have a chat with them, and everybody got themselves taped up there in the morning. And then you had an hour and a half with Gary Lewin, and they'd all come back in there. So you was always part of the team. You was never left out of anything. The training, if Gary was doing your rehab, you'd be doing it right on the pitch next to where the first team were, where they was training, because obviously the squads was much smaller then. So, we was all close. Everybody in the squad, even those that didn't sort of feature in it massively before that, younger players, probably the likes of Paul Dickoff and people like that. He'd have been around it all the time. So you was never left out. I went to the final, was in the dressing room before, was in the dressing room after. So yeah, it was.
That's good. That's good to hear, though, because you often wonder, like, what's it like for Martinelli at the moment? He's injured with a cut foot, or hopefully that's all it is, and so on. But how are they kept as part of that group, that important group? And especially if you look at the current squad as well, it's such a small group of 15 really. It's not a big huge squad, is it? I know there's 25 in a squad, but the core squad is probably about 15-16 players. So it's really, I think it's important that that's done. Trev?
Yeah,
Trev, just before you jump in, I wanted to show these pictures because
I was going to ask this question, Soph.
Say that again.
I was just about to ask this question.
Good. You ask the question, and then I'll show the pictures. I wasn't sure if that was before or after. Go on.
You see, that 93 cup run was memorable for me for a semi-final as well, where we talk about the press getting on people's backs. That Tony Adams used to get some serious, unwarranted press coverage. And for him to score the winner against Tottenham in the semi-final that year, I still remember how much of a celebration we had. But of course, then in the final, Dave, what does Tony Adams do? He drops Steve Morrow, right? So did Steve Morrow ever talk to him again, Dave?
I'm sure I've seen a picture of him recently with Tony holding up Stevie's arm.
Look, there's Dave right there. That's why.
Yeah, I was straight up, down, see what was going on. And then all of a sudden, Stevie falls off his shoulder. A lot of people think that that's me. So the first thing they ask me is, "Oh, how's your arm after Tony Adams dropped you?" But no, it wasn't me. But listen, I've got a strange feeling that after the semi-final, Tony lifted me up and I wobbled a bit on his back. Saved me and dumped Stevie Morrow. But listen, that was shocking. His arm was in such a horrific position when you look down at him. It was back to front, hand round the way. It was awful.
You don't seem too bothered there, though, Dave. I've got to say, in your little suit and tie.
I might have had a few champagnes, so fine.
I mean, he couldn't even go and get his medal, could he? He didn't even go up and collect his medal, did he?
No.
I remember it well, yeah.
But fortunately, the club got medals as well for the players that I think you had to play so many games in the cup to qualify. So I qualified for both the medals, but. Yeah, and I think when you've missed one, obviously I'd missed the League Cup final. So the FA Cup didn't hit me probably as hard as it would have if it was just an FA Cup final that I was missing, because obviously that was back in the day, that was the cup you wanted to win.
Of course it was. Does it upset you? Does it upset you that it's been devalued, the FA Cup, Dave? It upsets me greatly.
FA Cup in the playground at school. Do you know what I mean? And we'd name ourselves after great cup players, and we'd run around, and we'd be, and that's what we did back then. And FA Cup was a big thing, but I get that now, and I know that's probably why the Wrexham thing, whilst I saw it as just another game, everybody else saw it as a fucking big game. Do you know what I mean? It was, it was a bad loss. So the FA Cup meant a lot to people back then.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's important that I love the magic of the FA Cup and seeing Coventry. There's such a nice balance this season, and we've seen it before. But like their last minute, goal against Wolves, that kid actually just did it again for the US in the Nations League here in the States. To see them getting their David versus Goliath semi-final, Trev. We grew up in an era where the FA Cup day started the minute you opened up your eyes. The hotel, the vignettes from them kind of getting ready the night before, getting on the coach, being on the coach as a fan, watching them drive to Wembley Stadium. It was just absolutely priceless to get those kind of fly on the wall moments, wasn't it?
It was just an amazing that ever since. Well, obviously the first one I remember was 1971 when we won it, and you're right, Sophie. It was a full day. It was as soon as you got up in the morning, and as I got older, it never lost. Even if Arsenal weren't playing in the final, you still watched the day because it was the greatest cup competition on the planet. Mm-hmm. I'm gutted that we don't have so many replays now because. We used to see some amazing runs, all them games against Liverpool and all them games against it was Sheffield Wednesday we just talked about in the late, I can't remember when it was now, was it 78, 79? I went to Leicester 3 times in a week in the middle of the winter when the trains were on strike. We all got there somehow, and we all cheered our great side on. I'm with David all the way. I just hate the fact that the FA Cup is starting to get devalued because the youngsters now don't look at it like we were we did when we were youngsters. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Totally agree with that.
Even change the time to 5:15 on a Saturday and have another Premier League football on at the same time. As some of the fixtures, semi-finals and quarterfinals, and everything. I think it's absolutely despicable. It should be right around the world, regardless of the Champions League and everything else. People still look at the FA Cup as one of the trophies, and it's the English FA Cup. You got every other league have got their equivalent of their FA Cup, but there's nothing that compares to the English FA Cup. David, I've got another question for you, and I'm definitely getting the yellow. I'll rephrase it because I've written
relentless.
the way down here. Talk about '94 and the road to Parma.
He's done it again. He's done him again. The poor man's missed another final, Ferguson. You're picking on him again.
No, I'm talking about the road.
He did say the road. He did say the road to the final.
God, thank you, pal.
Yeah.
He gave me an opportunity. I wasn't missing it.
He's right there celebrating with his teammates, by the way, top right-hand corner. Absolutely having a good time with his teammates. I love how you're all in these. I love that you and Kev are in these pictures as well, of course. But go on, carry on as you were.
Yeah, and the road to Parma really, I think it took off for me probably Torino. I played little bits and pieces in the games running up to that, but in that game I was given a specific role, and I played really well. I had a really good game, fully expecting to start the home game, and in the first, I think it was about 25 minutes of it, got injured, and at that point I think I got a cut on my ankle that opened up really big, and I went off 10 minutes before half time to get it stitched, and the doc just started putting stitches through it, gave me something to bite on, and just started like trying to stitch it. Gary Lewin come in minutes later and said to me, what are you doing? He can't go back on with that. It opened up, split right open. And I think that hit home, that I was going to probably miss that final. And it had been a great competition for the lads. We had some great trips. We stayed in some lovely hotels, played against great players and played in really good stadiums. But for me, all that pales into insignificance, because I would have loved to have played in that final. And I think Ian Selly, was it Ian Selly? I think Ian Selly came in for me.
Yeah, Ian Selly played in that final. Yeah,
player, but when you've worked so hard all the way through, and I just felt like I was coming good. Like I said, I had a great game out in Torino. Even Carboni came up to me after the game and wanted to swap his shirt with me. I was like, what? Yeah, give me that shirt.
Have you still got it?
Yeah. Well, I had it up until a few years ago when something happened. I don't want to throw nobody under the bus, but put it this way: someone wrote someone in my family wrote my signature on it and gave it to somebody. Yeah, I know. It's terrible, isn't it? They faked.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's upset me.
Used like a thank you for somebody who'd done something for them, because it was us. But that's fine. But yeah, and when we swapped shirts, I opened my shorts up and I said, "You can come out of my pocket now." And he laughed. So yeah, gutted to miss that final, but it was just, again, the trips away, the flights back, the planes were unbelievable, because we used to get on the plane and the fans would get on. We'd be at the front and all the fans would be at the back. There'd be 100 fans and 30 Arsenal staff on a little plane. It was rocking. It was absolutely.
So
I love that. Yeah, go on, Trev. Yeah, you've got the floor.
I'm forgetting that we're on a different platform tonight, so I just want people to know that I do love Fergus dearly. He's a very dear friend of mine, but if he gives me an opportunity, I'm going to have a go, because he does exactly the same to me, right?
Well, I'm going to call you Jason from now on.
Going back to '94, the final you unfortunately missed, mate. Mr. Campbell got us to that final, didn't he? PSG at Highbury. Oh wow, what a night that was!
Look what I've got.
What a night that was! But
wow,
someone else missed the final because they were banned, didn't they? Mr. Wright. How did he deal with that, Dave? Was he all right about it, or was he unbearable, or what?
Oh, he was always unbearable when he, which wasn't often, to be fair. But Wright, he was like a big spoiled kid. But I don't remember exactly, to be honest, how he dealt with it, because I don't think I don't really think we really expressed that amongst ourselves back then. We were just happy to be part of the squad, and we weren't going to bring anybody else down. Everybody was so inclusive and included in everything. But I'm sure he was super pissed off, probably with himself as well. You know, but yeah. It's one of them things. It's one of them things. He didn't turn out to be a bad player anyway, did he? After that, he went downhill.
My hero, throwing shirts out the dressing room windows at Highbury. I never did get one. I tried a few times. I've got a right-hander for me troubles trying to get one. But yeah, you're so that squad then, right? It was just, I like the way you said that. Just one happy family, no weak links, no worries. Just a squad that went out to win every game.
Yeah, I think our weakest link, and moving forward probably over the next 2 or 3 years, was George's system started to get sussed a little bit. You know, teams started not playing 4-4-2 against us. They started changing it up. Everything changed a little bit. More European players came into the game. There was more an emphasis on technical. So we needed to adjust. And I think in the next couple of seasons, certainly the next one, I think 95, I don't think we was particularly good. And I think we wasn't updating our squad as we was going, really. We were sticking with the solid midfield, you know, a bit of flair down the wings, bit of improvisation and speed up front, power. I mean, Kev brought so much power. Sometimes when I watch Kev's goals, I think, fuck me, he scored a left foot volley on, oh mate, and we've seen it on the internet loads, and it was mint. If someone scored that this weekend, they'd be creaming over it on the telly. They'd be loving it. And some of them were absolute belters. And then when he used to smash people off the ball, you know, Haaland done it to someone a few weeks ago, didn't he? And it's like, he's the best thing. Kevin was doing that week in, week out.
Left foot, right foot. I mean,
pitch, you know. Not our pitch, to be fair. Ours was good most of the time, but most of the other places you went to were mud baths by October. So yeah, we had some cracking players, fantastic players, and great lads.
She was a fan. I missed
Trev,
that.
can I ask you?
Go.
I want to ask you and Fergus, because it's so hard, but I think Kev was as good as right. You know, when remember he gave Nick Ramsdale the best advice in terms of the David Raya and Aaron situation. And Kev's like, you know, I felt like I was just as good as him, if not better. And I just had to put my head down and prove everyone wrong and keep playing. His attitude, his mental capacity to just be so positive all the time is just incredible. It's really inspirational even now. But it's so hard, isn't it? Because they're both just scored bangers and such good players.
Trev, go.
Yeah, I can't argue any of that. It was just that Kev came through from the youth team and they brought Righty in, I reckon, and then Smudger was there and something had to give. And at the end of the day, that's down to the manager, isn't it? So, I mean, Kevin Campbell came from the youth team. The youth team, obviously, the same youth team as Dave was in, and Miller, God rest him, you know. But Kev came in with such a reputation into that team. He scored, I think, Dave will tell us better. Was it an astonishing amount of goals he scored in the youth side, wasn't it? I mean, we didn't get to see a lot of the youth side in them days, but you kept hearing about this lad Campbell. Every week he was scoring 2, 3, 4 goals. And yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant football. And let me tell you, a brilliant man as well, the way like takes us fans under his wing and helps us out on that. But I've got to drift a bit, Sophie. I've got to drift a bit because something stuck in my head about what.
Go on then, and then we'll talk about City and Arsenal and get Dave's take on what's happening now.
Dave just said that George's system got worked out a bit, right? Well, do you know, I won't say a bad word about the man, but that's how I feel about the end of Wenger, you know. Wenger got worked out. and he didn't have a plan B. He didn't. I used to go and watch the side play every week, and it didn't matter who we were playing, what system the opposition played. Wenger would try and do the same thing every week, and they worked him out, much the same. And that's why we needed a change. And I'm not saying that in a bad way about Wenger at all, but I think that was about the same as George.
Before you move on to the City game, there was one last question I was going to ask, David, which is 142 games for Arsenal, 2 goals. Would you have liked to have played under Wenger, because you left just a little while, just a couple of months before Wenger joined the squad? Would you have liked to have the opportunity to play under Arsene Wenger?
Yeah, I mean, in my career, I've no regrets. I've enjoyed myself, and when I've crossed the line, and things have happened, shit's happened, but wouldn't change none of it. No regrets. But one thing I do wish, and it was probably it was a case of money, because Portsmouth. When you're a young lad, you come up through the ranks. You get your money doubled from when you're 18 to when you're 19. Might go from 200 to 400 quid, then from 400 to 800 quid. And I ended up I won the league at Arsenal, earning 800 quid a week. When everyone was earning a minute, the next player up from me was on probably 2.5-3 grand. So I was waiting for that next contract, and I got one a couple of years later, and I got it up a little bit, but then everybody else had moved on a bit, and I got to a position where Portsmouth came in and made a really good deal. I knew with the time with Bruce Rioch, it had gone so downhill for me there. I'd lost my confidence, and I wasn't happy playing under him. But we knew, obviously, Wenger was coming before that. Stuart Houston took over, and in that little period. And in answer to your question, simply, yes, I'd wish that I'd just stayed one season just to see, because what he done physically for the players. Well, I was always a pretty trim. I could keep up with the best of them. I was quite athletic, and I would have liked to have seen what he could have done with me in that year. Do you know what I mean? Because I know the training, diets, and that, the attitude.
Well, what he did with Parler and Adams and everybody else.
Yeah, I think if I could have had a little bit of that, a little slice of that, I think I might have been in there a bit longer, or even I might have got a better deal and a better move at the end of it, to some better. But not knocking Portsmouth, I had a great time down there, and my decision totally. But I think at the time it was perfect timing. My daughter was just going to be born, and it was like we need to be somewhere secure and put some roots down, and we just did it. We just did that. But yeah, definitely. I wish I'd give it another year, and then I could got me money anyway.
We make decisions, and I always think that it's a human thing too. Is when you're doing the same job as everyone else, really, and this is why people don't understand maybe American sports. Yes, there's players on massive salaries, there's salary caps. You keep it all in check. But like when David Beckham was playing at LA Galaxy and he was earning like 5 million, there was a guy who was playing on the wing and he was earning 65 grand a year. It just doesn't make sense to me. That never made sense to me. When you're going in, you're training every day, you're doing exactly the same thing. Of course, he's a superstar, but back in the day, like when you were playing, I know. And when you think about that now, I think we pay kids way too soon, too much, too soon. Sorry, kids. Sorry, Gen Zers.
I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form that I think I wasn't probably what I deserved in that side. I mean, if Dennis,
I'm saying it.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, but if Dennis Bergkamp comes in, Dennis is worth 15 grand a week all day long. No one's going to argue that. And yeah, I should have been down probably where I was. So I needed to go somewhere else to sort of like make a bit for myself. And I knew it weren't happening anyway, because I think probably 3 months before Wenger joined us, Patrick Vieira came to the club, and he came straight into the the little dressing room in London Colney where I changed, and he put his stuff right next to me on the peg. He was injured at the time as well, but I knew he was a player. Everyone did. So yeah, it was. But it was all good. It was all really good.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just saying, like, it's the same thing. You know, Olivia Colman came out today yesterday, did an interview. She's an Oscar winner and she's won BAFTAs and everything. But yet, you know, if she's in a film with a man, he'll get paid like, you know, 50% more than her. It just doesn't make sense to me. But there you have it. Right. Trev and Fergus, have you got your nostalgic questions out the way?
Mm-hmm.
Have we missed anything, Trev?
I could go on all night, to be honest with yourself. I could go on all night. All sorts spinning around my head. You know, when Dave mentioned contracts there, I remember a lovely story Kev told us about George Graham trying to get him to sign a contract. I don't know if you've heard it before. It did make me laugh. And you know, I'm thinking, how was George Graham with you? I promise, last one, Sophie, I promise.
That's
how was
fine.
George Graham with you with a contract? Did you just sign it, Dave, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we just signed it. That's what I said. You took it for granted that it was going to get, you know, generically doubled the first couple of times, and then maybe you could go in and negotiate a little bit on the next one. But we was playing for the Arsenal. To be fair, Kevin can't complain anyway. He had a lovely blue Golf GTI when he got his first W convertible on his second one. He was doing all right. But
yeah, love it.
Just pretty much.
Tony Adams had a Capri, didn't he?
Yeah, it was already the contract was basically written out for you in front of you to sign. You know, and it was
Amazing.
the Arsenal. You weren't no big times. And I think just quickly going back to the Ian Wright and Kevin Campbell comparison, there, I think maybe because Kevin came up through that disciplined system, I think Kevin had a more disciplined approach to a game, whereas I think Wrighty, because of being bought as a star striker, if you like, after the FA Cup, wasn't it, for Palace, when he really shone, and he came as a bit of a superstar. So he played free and he played like his personality, and Kev played like his personality, strong, disciplined, well-mannered. You know, that's Kevin for you. Although he can be aggressive, and, you know, Kevin was never the beast he could have been, I don't think, because he had a kind heart. Whereas Wright, he really didn't give a shit if he caused trouble, if he did it his own way, if he did something that he thought would pay off and it weren't, we hadn't planned it. 9 times out of 10, he'd get away with it though. So that was the magic of it. So two totally different players, but different personalities, both of them, definitely.
I love that. I love that comparison. Excellent stuff. Brilliant stuff. And I hope you've enjoyed the trip down memory lane. You know, like we like to do every now and again. You can see a lot more of that on the channel through our Talented Gooners series, Inside the Dressing Room, and the show that's actually called A Trip Down Memory Lane. Some really, really good stuff from all of our guests. Right. There's a big game this weekend, and we cannot let Dave go without talking about it. We cannot let him go without talking about it. It's very rare that I start getting, unless it's a cup final, very rare I start getting agita this soon before a match. Who wants to go first? Because I'm not sure I can talk about it. Yellow card for me. It's massive, isn't it? Trev, you were saying before we came in that it's the biggest game we've had in a really, really long time. And they all seem big in modern football.
Of course, for me, it's the biggest game we've played in years, Sophie. It's the game where we're going to gauge where we are this season at the stage of the season where last year we started falling away, you know. I mean, I thought we were good enough last year. When we went to City and lost 4-1 last year, believe it or believe it not, I was shocked. There's a picture of me stood at the front of the stand and the ground's empty, and I'm stood there thinking, how did we lose that 4-1? I thought we were better than that.
It's you and Capo, isn't it?
Yeah, but we've moved on since then, and I'm excited about this weekend. I'm excited because nowadays I go to City. I used to go to City full of dread. Now I go to City full of hope. Not quite expectation yet. We're getting there, you know. So I'm excited about it. I think we gauge where we are properly this weekend, and it's the biggest game I'm going to watch Arsenal play in years for me. It really is.
Ferg?
I'm not going up on at the weekend and family time and everything else. Probably making up for my relaxed attitude of last weekend, but I'm sure I'll be relaxed again on Sunday before that game. Honestly, I think if we win the game, it's got to bode well because I think Liverpool with their injuries and so on and have got a few issues going on. I think it's got to bode well for our chances of winning the title. I think the most important thing is that we don't lose the game. We don't lose the game. If we have a draw, I don't know. It's really, really difficult to talk about because it's such a nerve-wracking game to think about. I just hope that there was rumours. There's been loads of horrible rumours about Martinelli and various other players on Twitter, but not from any really good sources. I'm just hoping that we'll have Martinelli back because I have noticed a difference. Whilst Trossard is a great player, I think he's better as an impact player rather than Martinelli. And I think Martinelli up against either Walker, if he's available, or who's the other chap that covers that spot. I think Martinelli can run them a bit ragged.
Sorry, who were you asking? Martinelli, Trossard, and Reece Nelson?
No. I said the Martinelli up against Kyle Walker.
On their side. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who's the guy who'll cover for Kyle Walker? I can't remember his name. Begins with an A, I think.
Don't care.
Akanji.
Akanji. That's it. Yes, yes. I think Martinelli can match up against him just as easily, and I think he is one of the key players that we do need on that pitch. I think Havertz has to be playing up top, not Jesus, and that allows for Odegaard and Rice to do what they're doing in the midfield. I'm very excited about the game, but also extremely nervous, as you can hear by my waffling.
Dave, this is the time, this is the moment, and this is where Arsenal fans have wanted this club to be for so long. The fixture list is piling up. We're in the Champions League quarterfinals. We're challenging for the title. Some of our listeners are saying this team is cut differently. They're different gravy. You and I talked last week about mentality and when the spotlight is on us, how are we going to cope? Do we like being the hunted versus the hunter? It's a massive game. You've been involved in these big matches. It's, as the boys said, it's just, you just can't lose it. But if we win it, dare I say, I think we'd be favourites. And I'm not sure I want to be in that position.
Yeah,
listen, I'm just going to say what I want.
Yeah, you got to say what you want and you got to believe in it. And I think the manager will be telling the players to believe in themselves. But first of all, I've just got to ask Fergus, if I'd have told him 3.5 months ago, he was going to make that statement about Havertz, would he have believed me if I'd have said he was going to say that in 3 months' time?
Probably not. I thought Havertz, whilst a great player, I thought it was a huge gamble, an expensive gamble by Arteta. And I'm glad that he has stuck by him, and I'm glad that he has come good. But as I was talking to somebody recently, Arteta's not stupid. Arteta must have seen something that others couldn't see when he was playing with Chelsea under the mishmash of a mess that club is at the minute, which I love seeing. But no, I didn't think we didn't, like Trev will back me up on this. We didn't ever have a go at Havertz.
Oh, now you want Trev's help, hey?
Oh yeah, when he needs me, he's straight at me. Yeah. Fergus is right though. Fergus is right. I don't go in hard on any Arsenal players. Maybe it's a weakness with me. I don't know. But I'm an Arsenal fan through and through, and I can't do it. But I'm a bit like Fergus. I did think that we spent 60 million on a player when at that time we might have been able to spend that 60 million somewhere that would help us more. But I also knew that there was a player in Havertz that we hadn't seen. And I'm over the moon to say we're actually seeing him now. And he's doing it at international level. Scored a goal for Germany this week as well. So he's got to play for me, Havertz. He changes the whole outlook of our front line. He's the difference I think we've needed for a while.
Yeah, definitely. I think getting to Sunday's game, I think the role he plays as well, floating around and not being an out-and-out centre forward, drifting into the midfield, getting yourself in uncomfortable positions for defenders to pick up. Just opens up the space for the likes of Odegaard to slot them little passes in to Saka. Even we're seeing Ben White in his new sort of inside midfield role, flourishing. There's lots of space, lots of movement. So I think it's going to be a great game. I don't think it will matter if we. I don't know if I want to say this. I don't think it will matter if we lost the game, as long as we don't get absolutely. Because last year, like you said, Trev, we got battered, and we weren't expecting that. No. And again, it felt like, when we got beat by Liverpool, was it 6-1, and then we got done by City the couple of seasons before. It felt like that was going to happen again. So we've got to avoid at all costs a big loss. And I think if we competed and stood our own with them, and we just don't come out with the points, then fair enough. That's it. We just move on. We got to win every game after that. It's simple. So I think the damage can be more done psychologically from a big loss in that game. I think else, obviously a win, the way we're playing, we've definitely got the potential to win. I thought Man City looked a bit dodgy against Liverpool. It felt like their character got dented, and they couldn't respond in certain areas, didn't know how to cope with Liverpool. And we've got that pace that Liverpool have got when we're on a team. So if we can get on them and put them in that position, that'll be good. Let them know that they are not alone. We are right there on their shoulder, even if we're slightly in front at the moment.
David,
yeah.
Do you think, and I'm trying not to tempt fate in any way, but do you think that the current City squad aren't playing as well as last season's City squad? That I think it's probably in the final throes of Pep's reign there, and then with the Klopp effect and their injuries and everything else of him leaving, that Liverpool don't look the wonderful Liverpool that the media think that they are as well. Is that just me and my Arsenal blinkers, or what?
I think the Man City squad is certain players are developing more so now. You've got the likes of Foden coming in, asking questions where he should be in the team first every week, he would think now. So the manager's under pressure to crowbar him in. He's got to play with Haaland, so they've got to play a certain way. All of a sudden, everybody, their dynamic's changing a little bit. I would imagine their dressing room dynamic might be changing a little bit as well, because, players are getting big contracts, and, other players are drifting off a bit, and they've been around in that playing mode now for, we say 8-9 years. They've been at that level. So like all good eras, they start to dip a little bit, and this definitely might be to take them. De Bruyne, I didn't think he was going to be the same player when he come back from his injury. He can be the same player, but not on a regular basis as he was before. He's peaking, and someone asked me the question, I think it might have been last week. So he's peaking while Odegaard is still travelling on an upward slope for me. So, I'd rather have the player that's got potential to do better than the player that's just going to give me his best every week. I'd rather take a chance on that. And I think he could be the key man. And he's not been the greatest in some big games, Odegaard, we know that, and it must be on his mind. So it's an opportunity for him. And if we can...
How do you think the Klopp effect would affect the squad in the dressing room? You talk about the dressing room in Man City, the dynamic may be changing. What about the dynamic in the Liverpool one, where you got players who were brought in the summer who were told, "Yeah, you're my next project. I'm going to do a rebuild," and then he goes, "You know what? I'm out of here."
There's always going to be casualties when new managers come in. I think Jimmy Carter was a classic. I think Kenny Dalglish bought him at Liverpool, and then 2 weeks later, Kenny left, and Jimmy had been told, "You're going to be the next winger. I'm going to turn you into what I was here." And 2 weeks later, nothing. There's always going to be casualties like that. But I think the Klopp effect, I think that will be very much like Klopp will turn that into his own positive.
Yeah, I think so.
those players, and he will say, "Look, I know I've only spent a year with you, but I brought you here because I love you, and just do your best for me, and you'll have great times." And I think he'll turn it to his advantage. So I don't think there's any cracks in Liverpool there coming from the Klopp side of things.
Okay, who? Go on, Trev. Go on, Trev.
It's really interesting because I can't think about anything than our side. I don't like to think about Man City. I don't like to think about Liverpool because I know that if we play to the best of our abilities with the squad we got, we're going to beat anybody on our day, right? But one thing's in my head, looking back at this season, is that, Man City got star players all over the field, but for me, their talisman is Haaland, right? And twice this season at Wembley in the Community Shield, and especially at the Emirates when we beat him 1-0, Haaland did not get a kick of the ball in either of those games. Saliba and Gabriel, Saliba in particular, were absolutely superb. And the game at the Emirates ended with Haaland kicking his toys out of the pram. He was that fed up and annoyed, So I think Haaland will have in his head now, I've had no joy against this defence this year, and hopefully it will long continue. What goes through, if you've had a couple of games a season, David, and I don't know, for any reason, you've got a couple of players in your head, does it stick when you go out there again, or do you just put it away and play your game?
It's a tough one. I think it's all about that confidence early on in the game. I mean, if he gets the run on Saliba and, does something special and feels like he's all of a sudden got the upper hand, then, it's for Saliba to come back and challenge him and win it back, and it will be a ding-dong battle. But I think in the game at home, you mentioned Saliba from the start just stamped his authority on it straight away, closed down the space, went all the way into the midfield with him, where Haaland tried to take him and thought, this guy ain't going to go in with me because Ben White's up the wing. What's he thinking? If I spin him here, I'm in. And he tried spinning him, and lo and behold, Saliba was in front of him, just ghosted in and laying the ball back to the keeper. So Saliba got on top of him from the start. I think it's all about getting on top of your opponent, winning the battle. And I think that's a big Jules Graham thing, was always you had the first 20 minutes to win your personal battles with your opposition. Get them to play against you, not you play against them. And I think that's key with the Saliba and Haaland. But Haaland will have all of his own fans behind him. He'll have a point to prove, so he's got all of that mental rage ready to go. So it's down to Saliba to keep him quiet. And if he does that, happy days. If he gets on top of him early, that just stands Arsenal in good stead for the game.
Any concerns? Real quick, any concerns about Declan Rice playing again tomorrow? He's been given the armband for England. Benjamin White definitely hasn't been given the armband for England. But Declan is playing. Just real quick before we go to Fergus.
I don't think he's got a week's recovery. He's a fit boy. I think he's clever enough to know not to put himself in any situations where Arsenal are going to suffer some consequences. He'll be looking after himself from the start of that game. I'm sure he will. Absolutely.
His injury record at West Ham was outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. Do you know what, Sophie? Declan Rice has got, for me, an amazing football brain. He seems to be a yard ahead of anybody else with his mindset. He'll go somewhere where the ball's going to go in 5 seconds' time and pick it up. He's done it so many times this year. Amazing. And then, of course, you pair that with Odegaard's energy levels. I mean, I know Odegaard's improving and hopefully he'll continue, but his energy levels he possesses now are off the scale. He does not stop chasing for 90, 120 minutes if needed. And I think that's very important. His energy, and then you've got Rice reads the game. I can't believe how well he reads the game. Superb. God, I'm excited about this weekend.
Getting all jacked up right now. Fergus.
Yeah, I was just going to say, David mentioned about Haaland will have his fans behind him and everything else in the Etihad Stadium. Now, I've been to the Etihad Stadium 2 or 3 times now, and I find it quite a soulless place. They have got a core fan base that came from Eastlands into the new stadium, but it is full of even more than many other stadiums in down south, full of tourists and so on. Do you think the atmosphere in that stadium will be anything close to the atmosphere that was at the game earlier in the season at the Emirates? And I think our away fans can make enough noise to counteract the City fans.
Drown them out.
Yeah, absolutely. Our stadium has been absolutely rocking this season. It has been unbelievable. Arsenal forever. The songs are at the beginning of the game. You've got to have no soul if the hairs on the back of your neck don't go up, right? When you hear that, even if you was a fan from another club, you would be thinking, "I wish this was my club singing a song like this." You would, 100%. Anyone who takes their kid to a game now, and that's their first game as an anthem like that before the game kicks off with that sort of atmosphere and everybody on it, is a great memory. And it ain't always been like that. I mean, they've really. But when I say about Haaland having his fans, I mean, he's in his stadium, he'd be looking around seeing a lot of blue, and whereas at Arsenal we saw a lot of red, and he heard a lot of red, and he heard a lot of shit as well, and he ain't got that he won't have that to deal with.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think for him it probably is. Yeah, I think because I reckon he got wound up at our place. I reckon he definitely got wound up, and the big Viking couldn't do anything about it with his physicality or his whatever, his Dolph Lundgren looks. He couldn't do nothing about it. No one was there to save him. And I think he couldn't wait to get off the pitch and get down that tunnel and get changed and get on the coach. I bet he was the first one on the coach sitting there with a face like a scalded little child. But he's got everything to play for. Like I said, Saliba's got to counteract everything he does and do a bit more.
Okay, so
quick one question for Sophie.
Yeah.
You heard what David said, and you heard what we talked about the atmosphere and the discussion that we had on a podcast a few months back, 6 weeks ago, about North London Forever. And has you since that discussion, you would have heard it sung so many times. Have you now seen it in a slightly different light, and can you now see it from the sort of?
I only love it at the beginning of the games. I love it because it gets the crowd involved.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily the song. I think it's if they could picked another song and someone had done a song that had a great melody or whatever, our fans needed something to connect to, and that song came at the right time. And it's really quite brilliant marketing as well. I know this the backdrop and the story behind it. I totally get it. I would have preferred. My point was, I would have preferred a song that kind of came from the terraces, just a little bit, because I think that's how great tunes are made. But now, in modern football, I mean, Liverpool's song it didn't come from the terraces, did it?
Nope.
I do like how it's connected everybody and it gets everybody going at the beginning of the game. Even Gabriel Jesus was singing it from the bench. Just the
Wrong
other
words,
day.
but he was singing. Yeah.
yeah. So right, and someone who really has a lot to do with that song, and you guys haven't mentioned yet. We talked about the players, talked about Havertz, talked about Declan Rice, Martinelli, the wings. How this game's going to be won and lost. Our defense, which has been immense. At the very end, I want to get your take on who starts on the left, if he's going to play Zinchenko or Kivior. But the person who I think holds the key to all of this is the gaffer. Don Arteta, who has gone from strength to strength as a manager, and he's going to be judged. We were talking about George Graham, we were talking about Arsene Wenger, and it's all good and well, and these journeys and all of this stuff, and I love it, and I'm really part of the journey this season. But Arsenal Football Club are always going to be judged by whether or not they win trophies. And he holds the key here. Dave, I'll start with you. Mikel Arteta, I agree with Trev, it's a big game, probably one of his biggest games. He's going up against Pep. He's a Pep protege. Everything he does, everything he's learned, everything we're seeing from him, he's like a cut and paste version of Pep Guardiola. How does he approach this game? Are we pragmatic, Arsenal? Do we revert back to the 1-0 win? Is that how we're going to play them, especially on their turf? And do you see him playing safe with a Kivior at left back? Tomiyasu maybe not ready to come in straight away on this one. What's your take?
I think that Mikel Arteta will try and go one better this time. I think he will go for a high press. I think he'll want them to make mistakes in their midfield early in the game. I think he'll want us to try and get ahead early in the game, as we have done for all the rest of the games this season. Well, certainly since Christmas, since coming back from Dubai, we've gone for the throat, really. I think if it had been last year, yeah, I think he might have been a little bit more defensive, been a bit more worried about the space in front of our back four. But I think he's quite comfortable with the fact that we can have Declan Rice in there. Maybe he might stick Jorginho in there as well. I'm not sure, to just shore it up, to release Declan Rice into that forward role again. But I certainly think that he will be thinking that Man City are there for the taking. And if we don't take them now, and you don't go out there thinking you can take them, then you might as well not try for the rest of the season. He won't tell them that, but that will be his attitude. He'll be trying to get them. He'll be trying to get them fired right up for this, believe in themselves. This is the right time. We came close last year. I don't think you come close 2 years in a row and then win it on the third year. I don't think that's sustainable. I think that's a tough ask of any team. So I think if you're going to win it, you need to win it this year, and you need to go out with firing some guns. And I think he will. I think he'll go for it.
Trev, I actually think that this season the team believe that they can win it. I don't think they believed it last season, but I really think that they believe, and I believe differently this season. But I think the person who believes the most is Mikel Arteta, more than anyone, and he'll be gutted more than anyone if we don't. What's your take on the gaffer and his approach to this game? Do you start Kivior as well?
It's a very important point you make, Sophie, in that lots of people forget that not only our players are a year further on, our manager's a year further on. He's got another year's experience under his belt. And that's very important for me when it comes to managing football teams and learning. You learn from your mistakes and you don't make those mistakes twice. If you want me to think about choosing a side for this weekend, I would definitely leave Kivior in there. I don't want Zinchenko pushing infield and pushing up the park, because I think a lot of Man City's threat comes down the flanks. They leave players real wide. They hug the touchline and they make space just inside. And for me, Kivior has shown and grown into that position and shown that he's the best person for that job this weekend. I wouldn't bring Jesus or Zinchenko in. I'd leave it as it was. I'd like Martinelli on the left, but definitely play Kivior. Kivior is possibly our most improved player this season. You can see his improvement game by game, and over the last few weeks, where we've been winning games by a long way, you've take last week out of the way, 5-6, 4-6. And Kivior has played in them games, and he's played damn well, and he deserves to be in that side for me. So,
Fergus, we'll get you, and then we'll get some quick predictions, the announcement, and then we're out of here. I just realized we have been on air for 1 hour and 18 minutes. I'm pretty sure Dave's got his tucker on the table somewhere, and we'll get the squaddies out of here too. Fergus, what is your take, and give me your prediction?
For me,
unless you want to save your prediction exclusively for Guns and Ribbons on Wednesday.
No. It's a crossover, so we're good. For me, the side doesn't change from the side that we started against. For example, Porto. It's a winning side. Raya, White, Saliba, Kivior, Gabriel, Rice, Jorginho, Odegaard, Saka, Trossard, and Havertz. That's the starting lineup. They've been the most successful starting lineup for weeks. Providing they're all available. That's who not Trossard. I'd swap Trossard out for Martinelli if available. But that's the lineup I'd have. If we've got Martinelli, you're going to make me 3-1 Arsenal, and that's pure head and heart.
You're right.
This is the time. This is the moment. And this is the time to change the narrative. And when I say, like, if we win this game, we'll be favorites, I mean the media, the pundits, they'll pile on the pressure. They will make us favorites. This is what they're going to do to us. But if we beat this team, like Dave said earlier, you lose this badly, the mental just goes again because you think, oh, we're never going to beat them. But if we win this game, it takes us to a totally different level, not only within the squad, not only for the manager, for the fans, but with the public as well, which I know we give zeros about, but in a way we do. We want to shove it and ram it right down their gobs, and we want to lock up their dartboards so they can't throw them at us anymore. This is massive. I say we win. Come on, the Arsenal. How about that? Hey, get in.
I
More
hope
jacked
you
up.
two are right. I hope you two are right.
Well, we need to salute that.
Right, let me get you guys out of here. I do have some mega news, and to us it's mega news, and to me it's some of the best news that I have heard all year. The huge news that I wanted to share with you, I'm getting goosebumps, is that Super Kevin Campbell is going to be back live on Monday Madness next week. You heard it right. You heard it here. Get your salutes ready. Super Kev is back, and I cannot wait to get him back on the show to talk about football. And I am beyond thrilled and excited. And, the reality is I never thought the day would come, but it is here. And he sent me a text and I choked up and I started crying. And this is why I believe we're going to beat Man City as well. Super Kev's going to be back. The stars are aligning. Stop me, someone.
No, you carry on, Soph. You carry on. It's good. No, I think. Let's hope you're right. Let's hope it brings us all the luck. But I don't think it's going to be about luck. We got to play well, and we've had a bit of a break now for a couple of weeks, and we've got a big month coming up of huge games, lots and lots of them as well. So it's I think a win would just absolutely kickstart that last little push towards the season, give them that energy that they need to get through this month, and I'm sure it'll happen. So I'm going for 2-2.
I'm absolutely over the moon, Soph, that Kev's back and he's well. I'm over the moon about it. I really am. Got a Man City game, right? I think we're going to win it, right? I think we can win it, and I think we will win it. But something you've got to remember, right? There's twists and turns to come yet this season. There's twists and turns. It's going to go right down to it, right? So hopefully we'll win and we're ahead of the game then. Hey, and just to finish from me again, so I shut up. Kev, brilliant. Great to see you back, mate.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And you're right. We'll probably beat City and lose to Brighton.
My Brighton ticket turned up today, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to Brighton. I haven't been to the Amex. I want to see us win down there.
Just good stuff, everyone. Brilliant show. Mr. Hillier, thank you, as always. And just because Kev's coming back doesn't mean Hillier's going to disappear. He's going to be back. We're going to be talking football. Tell him, Dave.
We are going to be talking. I might need a week off, though. I might be going on holiday. I'll need a little break. It's all been too much the last few weeks. So tough.
We'll allow it.
I need to get away for a week. But no, I'll be doing the game on Sunday. Doing the Arsenal. So yeah, I'll be watching closely. Although I won't be at the Etihad, I'll be at the Emirates at my second home, doing it there. And yeah, I wish all the guys good luck. But obviously, I'm with Trev on this. I'm so happy to see Kev back, see him doing well. Rambo, so you can't kill Rambo. You can't take Rambo. Rambo is Rambo. So yeah, can't wait to see him back. There he is. Yeah. Look. It looks like you're rubbing his head, Soph, like that with a big hand.
I am.
So, line your arm up, it'd be perfect if you did that. Look, right on his head.
I can't wait for him to come back and just start doing this again. He's got a lot of necks to break. He's been taking receipts, everyone. He's been watching these shows. Don't you worry about it.
What about we haven't done it's a yellow card all day long. Newman's got a yellow card, not rescinded. That's my decision, final.
Yes.
And if he argues it's a red, that's it.
Oh,
Take that.
Absolutely brilliant.
Sophie,
I love it.
It's been absolutely brilliant and great news again about Kev. But I've enjoyed the nostalgia. I've learned. I've enjoyed getting another professional footballer's point of view and perspective, and get to know a little bit more on the inside of Arsenal Football Club. You mentioned that done some other shows as well, but if people also want to go across to the Guns and Yellow Ribbons YouTube channel, we've done a whole series with Mark and Andy from the Arsenal Historians. We've done a whole series a couple of summers back, and they're really, really good, going from
Brilliant shows.
from 1886 right through to, I think it was 2020, Trev, wasn't it?
yeah, it was. That was a great series, and what was great about it was every time Fergus said something, either Mark or Andy called him up about it.
We like that. We like that a lot. Make sure you guys, please, squaddies, you do one thing when you leave this show, okay? And for those listening on replay, please do the same. Please go subscribe to Guns and Ribbons. You will not regret it. These guys love their team. They're all about the team. They go to the away games, and you've got Alex and you've got Dan as well. Dan is a huge instigator of Arsenal songs. He's always in the mixer, home and away. These guys travel religiously with love and with so much passion, and have done for years and years. And I tell you, if you're looking for the type of content that we do here, that is all about love, and yeah, sometimes they get heated, but Guns and Ribbons, go give them a subscription. Please, I ask you to do that, squaddies, for me. Okay?
Guns and Ribbons on Twitter, Guns and Yellow Ribbons on all other media. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There you go. All right, guys. We'll be back with some more shows this week. Look out on the community page and the old X. I've started calling it that. And until then, at ease, everyone, at ease. And this time next week, the big fella will be telling you, don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. Oh, goosebumps. At ease, squaddies, at ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.